following program is from WNET 13.
Black Journal is an on-the-air magazine reporting on the personalities, ideas, and issues that affect Black America. It attempts to achieve balance by reporting from a Black perspective.
Black Journal's 5th season is highlighted in this new Black Journal magazine, featuring such articles as A Rap with Melvin Van Peebles, the phenomenal growth of Friends of Black Journal chapters, and a black paper on white racism. For your free souvenir copy, send your name and address and 50 cents in postage stamps. Do not send cash or checks to Black Journal, Department M, 10 Columbus Circle, New York. Black Journal, 10 Columbus Circle, New York. This is part 2 of Black Man, White Woman, and tonight we're going to continue where we left off last week. Our guests are Dr. Frances Welsing, psychiatrist, a member of the faculty of the psychiatric department at Howard University's Medical School, and Dr. Alvin Poussant, who is a psychiatrist and a member of the faculty at Harvard's Medical School in the psychiatric department, and author of the well-known book, Why Blacks Kill Blacks. To begin this second part of what was a very exciting first part, I'd like to throw the question out. What has the increase in relationships between black men and white women done to the relationship between black men and white women, in black men and black women?
Well, I think first we should say that, there's interracial marriages that take place between black women and white men too. And that's a whole area because it seems that black men always get the focus of the interest and the attack, which is interesting because I think the society, white supremacy, has been concerned mostly with the black man, white woman. So I think that's the reverse of that, the white man, the black woman, also is a subject. There's no question, it seems to me, that black women, from what I can see, all over, are very, very upset and threatened by the growing relationships between black men and white women, and that they oppose it. Now, from the black man's standpoint, I hear a lot of brothers say over and over again that first it was the white man who told them they couldn't go out with white women. Now it's mainly the black woman who's telling them that they can't go out with white women, so that they still feel oppressed. Now, for whatever that's worth, I think that's an important point psychologically for the black man, because is the black woman in this, is she more concerned with her control over black men, or is she concerned with white supremacy and interracial relationships in general? Because if black women are concerned in general, then they should attack just as much, I think, the white man, black woman combination.
But hasn't the black woman, to some extent, because the statistics have reversed. The statistics for black women, white men has decreased by the same percentage that the statistics for black men, white women has increased. Yeah. So obviously the black woman
has more cause for concern at this point.
Well, maybe she has more awareness, more consciousness, more cause for concern. Maybe her concern is not due to the fact she's threatened. Maybe her concern is due to the fact that she's just politically more sophisticated and more conscious of what black people ultimately may have to do, and that is unify themselves.
Let me just add this, that I think that the black woman's concern is related to, let's say, perhaps her survival as a woman or her functioning as a woman. That, and hopefully, I hope it's beyond that, the change in the statistics. But I think that, let us say, black men after the age of 15 are decreased in the population relative to the number of black women. Where are they? They're in Vietnam, they're in prisons, and they're dying from various causes at earlier ages than white men comparably. So that, let's say, there are a number of women, black women, who are going without adequate spouses or male partners to relate to. So probably, instinctively, black women are concerned about that. Historically, white men have not been interested in black or other non-white women, be they Japanese, Chinese, Indian, or whatever. They have been interested in sexually exploiting black women, but not really taking them to the altar, let's say, to marry them or to really fully respect them. So perhaps black women are responding to that. But I think that what is key is really what is happening to blacks, because I see the thrust of white women sexually aggressing against the black man, or from the other side, the thrust of the white man sexually aggressing against the black woman, that this produces a division between black men and black women that is going to contribute significantly to, if you want to call it, genocide of black people. In other words, if you heighten the alienation between black men and black women,
harder to organize.
Right. It will. In other words, we talk about unity at a political organization level as being one kind of unity, but there is another kind of unity that is much more fundamental, and that is the unity within the family unit itself. And we have been denied the opportunity to really have functioning family units since the really onset of white supremacy.
Let me ask one question. Let's talk about the contemporary family unit of a interracial couple in today's American society. Where in the black community, we have to admit that the black community is much more nationalistic, or very nationalistic, and that the black community is not receptive as it once was to interracial groups. The white community, I would say, has moved to the right to a very great extent.
You mean seemingly to the left? You mean to be more receptive to?
No, more reactionary to
It's more
interracial
reactionary.
couples.
No,
I'm talking about the middle America. I'm not talking about a few New York sophisticated interracial couples or San Francisco. These, I think, are just islands. Are surrounded by
I would
very
disagree
cautious
with that,
white
Tony.
communities.
I would say that white people have moved to accept black men and white women to a greater degree than has ever been evidenced in this area of the world. And that is across the board.
Then does a black man...
And I will say that there's a reason for this. They are being conditioned by the kinds of movies that are being made these days, where you have black men and white women engaging in sex on the screen or other kinds of relationships at the white community. In other words, those people who are responsible for getting the masses of white people to do those things that are necessary to maintain white supremacy are conditioning them to accept this phenomena. Do you see? Because they understand that the black man really is being psyched out of position. He is being psyched to think when he asked for black power and liberation, and they said, no, we're not going to give you power, but here we will give you the white woman. And the black man was faked out of position, just like many people are faked out of position. You say black power, I'll give you a $15,000 job. You don't have power, you don't have self-determination, but you have a program or a grant. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, you ask for this, but I give you this because you really don't know what you want.
Well, then are you saying
or
that
you
the
don't
children...
really know what constitutes power, or you really don't know what is the dynamic of the system. A lot of people think that the dynamic of the system is money. Money is not the dynamic of the system. White supremacy, or the maintaining of white power throughout the world, when whites are outnumbered 9-1 by non-white people, is the name of the game. Color is the name of the game. But we don't, I say that across the board and around the world, non-white people have not understood the significance of the color dynamic and how white people have taken something that they are very intimately concerned about. I say that the fact that they cannot produce color, that they have decided that they're going to dominate everybody else who has this genetic capacity, who can genetically annihilate them. You see, comes one drop of black blood makes you black. That is a statement of the genetic dominance of the capacity to produce color over the inability to produce color.
And occasionally you'll find, I guess Francis has encountered this too, you'll find white women who have a preoccupation and desire to have black babies.
And
of
white
black
men
children.
have a desire to create children.
Well, let's
of
talk
color.
about the first. Let's talk
Okay.
about the obsession, if I may use that word, on the part of the white woman to have a black baby. Now, what would the psychological dynamics be in a case such as that?
Well, I think, it's hard to tell without really just picking an individual case,
I
but it
can
may.
tell you.
Go ahead, Francis.
Well, can you,
But what-
have you ever had a case?
I don't,
Yes,
yes,
I
I've
know
had it.
black
I've had,
psychiatrists who say
I've
that
had
white women don't say
patients
this to
who've
white
wanted to have
therapists.
black babies.
But white women will say this to a black psychotherapist. I want to have a black baby.
Why? Why
I
do
say
they say
why because white people, if we look at the skin color white, white is the genetic inability to produce color. It is a genetic deficiency state. It is a form of albinism. It has never been discussed in this way, but genetically, biologically, this is what it is. White people they don't have the capacity to produce color. They wish they could. This is why they spend a lot of time sun tanning, makeup, all of that is trying to give color to colorless skins, okay? Now, because they have this deep psychological need, they are the only people in the world, they are the minority in the world who cannot produce color. And so they can't produce it, they can't make it on their own. They try to suntan, and then at the sexual level, they have attractions to people who can give them the illusion that they have participated in the production of color. So the white man has gone all over the entire world, having sexual relations with every group of non-white women that he meets. The white woman, when she has been allowed to, sexually aggressive
And you're saying
towards
that now
men of color.
she is
So that
allowed
she-
to.
And so then she gives vent verbally to that fantasy. I want to have a product of color because this is the one thing that I
But
can't
Francis,
do.
how much is color the issue? I think that...
You can't move
No, I
without
know that,
color.
okay, but what I'm trying to do is bring in other elements. That is, there's also, I've seen in some of these women a desire sort of to play a model role or a really superhumanistic one. That is, they want the world to be colorblind, so they want to get involved in producing black children
No,
and raising
if
them
they want the
and
world
all
to be
that
colorblind,
type
what
of
is the
thing.
focus on color all about? If the world is colorblind, what is the
That's
point of
right.
talking about
Okay,
having a
but
black baby?
this is some of their rationale. What I'm saying, I think that some of it is political in their minds. That is the time that the civil rights movement was talking about black and white together. And that was a political position that people almost felt forced to have interracial relationships. And that was
But
considered to be in
again,
the
who
forefront
felt
of the
forced
whole
to have
thing.
interracial relationships?
Well, may I ask the question?
Both blacks and whites.
May I ask
They
the
were
question?
both involved.
You did quite a number of investigative studies. I remember reading one in Jet magazine on the interracial relationships in the South during the Civil Rights Movement. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there, or was there, or is there a phenomenon of black leaders and white women?
Well, I don't know if it's a phenomenon. Let me say that I would say a lot of the black leaders and the rank and file were involved with white women. There were also a lot of white men involved with black women, but I think the main group, that is the largest group involved, were black men with white women. And that this created a lot of problems. And I think it had a lot to do with the development of the black consciousness movement.
Well,
And
didn't
that
it have a
framework.
lot to
What did
do?
it have to do with it? Wait a minute. See, there are people, for example, who are looking at the thing that has cut significantly into the quest for black power that went on in the 60s has been the unleashing of white women and saying that now you go out and have relationships with a black man to cool him out.
Yeah, it had
in
political
terms of,
significance.
all right.
No
so
question
that, so
about
that,
it.
let's say, for example, the white woman, if you talk to women who are the furthest left, white women, who are in the women's liberation movement, peace movement, or any anti-war movement, if you say, look, what about eliminating white supremacy as a system? They have no use for that. They have no use even for the black man outside of
they
the
say they
context.
will, but I don't know
Wait
how
a
much they're
minute.
doing.
It has been my experience. Maybe yours is different. It has been my experience that white women will talk about in the war in Vietnam. When you say, well, that's a war to maintain white supremacy, then they don't want to have any trouble with looking at it in that way. When you say, well, look, the way that we have analyzed the problem is it's not a question of who has the money, it's a question of an established system to maintain white power, and that this is what is raising havoc all over the world for the vast majority of people. Do you want to eliminate that? No, because the white woman understands that the black man is not even going to feel towards her as he does unless there's white supremacy and unless he feels in his powerless position that he is gaining power by making an alliance, be it marital, sexual, whatever kind of alliance with the white.
Yeah, I think that they feel that maybe unconsciously. There was no question in my mind that with a lot of the white female workers in the movement, even though they were involved with black men and sometimes married to them, that a lot of them had a lot of racist ideas and feelings. That is, frequently the attention of the black men made them feel very special.
Right, like you called it the African queen, or the white African.
Yeah, the white African queen. Heightened their sense of feeling special.
You mean attention they couldn't normally get from a white man?
That's
But
right.
look at this.
And
Let's
then
look at
the
that
old thing about
elimination.
white women frequently who were unattractive, who came into the black community because the black
could
men
be
would
ugly
adore
or fat,
them
but a black
because
man
they
would
were
think she
white,
was beautiful,
but the
right.
black men thought she was beautiful.
right.
And that's still operating frequently, sometimes in subtle ways, so that you can sometimes get, I'm not saying this is true of all white women or anyone, but this is an example. You can get a very pretty white woman sometimes who internally thinks she's no good.
Why? Because
For a lot of
she
reasons,
has been devalued
who might
by
get
the white
attracted
man.
to black men.
See, white
So it's
women
not-
are asking
it's-
for
it runs
liberation.
deep
They are
sometimes.
asking for self-respect from their own men. Okay, because a white man not only had to be dominant to all people of color, he also had to dominate his own woman in the process. And so white women are saying, we want to be liberated, or we want to make ourselves equal to you. You see, I think that that is a major
are you saying that- are
dialogue
you
that
saying
is
that-
going on.
are you
The
saying
white
that-
woman is
But
saying
don't,
she
don't
wants to
some
be.
of them want to rid themselves of the racism? Isn't this important,
No, see,
particularly
no, that's
when
like-
they're raising their children? I mean,
No,
wouldn't you
they don't
think
want
that-
to rid themselves of privilege.
Which
You see,
which
and this is
privilege?
why there was a study done recently where white women are still teaching 3-year-old, 2-year-old white children that it's no good to be black, and that black people are niggers and this and that and the
But
other.
what about the white parent of a black child? I mean, that white parent would have a vested interest in at least trying to deal with their racism so that they will raise
You would think
their
that.
children unscarred.
You would think that.
Now, all of us know, people from interracial homes. I mean, they're not all, brainwashed into being white.
No, they
But some-
can't be
most of them
brainwashed into being
have
white because
have
they're all
identifications
non-white.
in
All
being
of them
in being
have
black.
marks of being non-white products. Either their hair is curled, their lips are broad, their nose are broad, or their skin is dark. Black genetic material is always going to leave its mark. And the children are always non-white. And the children that I have seen, many of these children have more hang-ups about not being white, you see, than black children who may be the same hue. You see, because they are caught in that dynamic of a parent on the one side, a white parent who still has not given up their desire to be dominant as a white person, and the black parent, be they male or female, who when they went into that alliance hoping that they would somehow be in the position of an acceptable one now after they had devalued themselves. So that the child is in.
I don't know if.
Well, she's
See, what I'm saying
just for
is-
purposes of conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can say all of
I'm not
anything.
saying
I
is
know,
the
but
same.
it's important that if we're talking about it, it makes it seem as if these are.
Well, let's
like
look
the
at it
major
this way.
dynamics.
Non-white children who have had white parents, all of us, everybody in this little circle, has had some white intertappings into their genetic stock.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Now, in the vast majority of non-white people in this area of the world have had white intertappings. So that it really is not significantly different than what happens actually in the white home itself. The dynamic is still the same. So that when you have light-skinned, dark people feeling devalued because they have color, whether it occurs in some illegal alliance of a white man having something to do with a black woman on 14th Street in Washington, D.C., or in Mississippi somewhere,
see,
or in Harlem, New York, or
There's
Fifth
a black
Avenue,
parent
wherever.
involved too.
But
See,
what I'm saying is that,
I-
see, we cannot take any of this out from what is happening at a global level. See, one thing that has happened in psychiatry, that we have been tied up with somebody by the name of Sigmund Freud, who I'm sure made some very significant contributions in terms of looking at human behavior or behavior. Some significant contributions, but he got tied up in talking about behavior comes from within the individual and only indirectly from what is happening outside of the individual. So he called it the sexual instinct, okay? But there are other people, fortunately, now who are coming along.
While we
And
have
who
time.
are, okay.
Yeah, but we're
While we have
not,
time.
we're not completely controlled, by the externals. And I would like to think that we have some power over determining and understanding
have power
the
over what we don't
processes that affect us.
While we have time.
But I don't consider
Yeah.
myself a complete sort of a robot who's affected by racism and don't understand it. And I think a lot of people like that, both some whites, but not a lot of them, and a lot of black people can understand or feel what's going on. And I think that's why you get some some black men who are very aware about a lot of racial things in their blackness, who may get involved in those situations, particularly in the past. And you have some who are on the opposite extreme. But it's not like we're all...
Yes, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
We would never resolve that very deep psychiatric problem. But I would like to, at least while we have a few minutes, discuss one very important point. And that is the significant phenomenon, and Dr. Poussin, I'm sure you will agree with us in an overgeneralized way this time, the significant phenomenon of well-known, I will not make well-known synonymous with prominent, black women who, particularly professional entertainers, who consistently marry white men in large numbers and one white man after the other. And I would like to know from either or both of you how you view this dynamic.
I say that they're not marrying the men, the white men are marrying them, okay? And I think that is important.
Well, but if they continually are selective.
Well, let's put it this way. Number one, that as I said earlier, that there is an extreme alienation going on between the black man and the black woman. In other words, this same conversation really could be discussing the alienation between the black man and black woman that allows for the significant phenomenon of black man, white woman that we see. All right. Because there is that alienation, then black women and black men all across the economic board, no matter whether they're on welfare, whether they're making, $150,000 a year probably as an entertainer, are having problems in terms of their relationships with each other. Now, some women who, they may be in the limelight, or they may be considered beautiful or star or something like that, all right, they have been frustrated in many of their relationships. If you take all of those entertainers, if they start telling you that they started out relating to black men, and they had a number of kinds of problems, and so now, well, I don't want to say you didn't. No, you didn't fail us.
Okay,
you didn't fail us. The white supremacy system is just beating all of us.
Black men will say that too about black women. That black women have let them down.
Right. Well, you see what I'm saying? It's just like the Julia syndrome. Diane Carroll and the Julia. Black women have been programmed via TV and everything else. You don't need a black man. You just need a white man to give you a job. At the same time, they're saying to the black man, you don't want a sapphire. She's too argumentative. She talks too much. You see what I'm saying? What you need is a white woman. Now, what does this produce? This produces maintenance of white supremacy. Why? Because you have divided and conquered the black man from the black woman, just like you divide and conquer non-white people.
I have to make this point, if that's true. But I still must return to the fact, and I don't think we can lose this statistic, that there is a decline on the part of black women in general in interracial relationships, but there continues to be a significant increase among black women and white men when the black woman is a prominent entertainer.
Tony,
okay.
See, this I'm isolating, and we must address ourselves to that. I'm isolating that group of black women.
Part of this, I've talked to people about this in show business. One of the explanations they give, you can take it or leave it, is that in the entertainment field, where these women are most of the time, that there are very few prominent black men who have power. Black men aren't the producers, they aren't directors, they aren't the people putting up the money, they aren't the stage managers. That all of these people in that industry, the strong, dominant, powerful men are white.
Are you saying that the black woman, in order to be successful in that field, must marry one of those white men?
No, I think that that's part of the phenomenon.
But many black women in the entertainment field do not marry white men, and they are still successful. So wouldn't that not contradict that point?
They're coming in constant contact with these types of white men in the business who have power, and starlets frequently marry men with power.
Okay,
white actresses do this, white entertainers.
But I must now return to your theme. Wouldn't the variable then be the individual?
No, look, there are not a lot of black men who are earning that same salary, okay?
Into that
because even at the lower level, black men and black women have problems because the white supremacy society has said it'll be easier for a black woman to make a particular salary. Black women can get a job easier than a black man any day. And that has caused,
I don't think that's true.
Well, just ask in the community. Ask in the community, because a black woman could be a domestic worker when her husband couldn't even work.
Yeah, but I think it's shifting.
Well, it may be gradually shifting. I don't know about that looking at the current unemployment statistics, okay? But I'm saying that has been a sore point within the black family unit a long, long time, and that's why somebody like Monahan can come out and talk about matriarchal family structure. Why? Because the white supremacy society said, well, we'll let her make more money because it's really important to keep him down. All right, so this is what they did. Now, when you get to the level where the stars are, and the income,
Why the fear?
well, wait a minute, and the incomes that they're making, that number one, you have many black men who are not making comparable salaries. And when they are making comparable salaries, because of the dynamic that goes along with that salary, then he wants a white woman. So who's available for her? Because we have one black behavioral scientist who says when a black man is poor, he wants a job. When he gets a job, he wants luxuries. And when he gets luxuries, he wants a white woman.
All right, let me
now
ask,
that is a dynamic that is produced.
All right, let me ask
but
one.
you see what I'm saying? It's not castigating the black man. It's saying this is what the white supremacy society is programmed.
All right, but consistently,
and we have got to keep
consistently,
that in
Dr.
mind.
Wells, you have made the point, a very strong premise, that the black man is the real fear of a political system based on white supremacy.
Oh, yes.
Why, I'll ask?
Well,
why the black man? Why is this system so afraid of the black man?
You know what
If
black
that fear
power
is the
means?
reason for interracial relationships.
You know what black power means? Black power means genetic power. The black man can annihilate the white man, you know, with his phallus. The white man has to build a missile to annihilate people of color. By that I mean this, that I think that the fundamental thing that is frightening white men and has frightened them since they were created as genetic mutations is that their appearance can be annihilated by the black man, especially the man who can create the most color, which is the black man in the whole human family. And that is the individual who has to be made inferior and who has to be controlled and has to be destroyed at the fundamental level of genetics. Then we can look at the next level in terms of numbers. That non-white people, if they outnumber white people 9-1 in the world, then the white man all over the world has got to say, now we have got to keep these people down. And you keep a people down by controlling their men. Women, that's why they can let.
That's true.
Succinctly,
That was
Dr.
the
you see, I think that this is where.
I think that's true, that all of the policies that they had in repression of blacks directed toward the black man's access to the white woman, because then he could, that way he could destroy white people eventually by making all people of color. Whereas the white man, his access to the black woman produced children of color, but they were black children.
No, the white woman is that all of the children of black and white are non-white.
Yeah,
whether it's a male, or whether it's a male white or the female white, the children
whatever.
are all,
the children are all brown. But
okay.
That's why they wanted to protect the white woman against the black man.
Not to protect her, to control the sexual activity of the black man. You see what I'm
That's
saying?
right,
Not to
in
protect,
relationship
but
to the white woman.
that's important. In other words, the genetic material of non-white men in the world has to be controlled if we don't want the disappearance of white people. And white people, even though they don't like the fact of skin whiteness, proof their quest for suntan, okay? Even though they have psyched themselves into the position that white is beautiful, although they don't really believe it. Then they don't want white appearance to be annihilated, because now you have a worldwide system that's 500 years old of white domination and white
it's easier to
privilege.
control black people.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a very, very interesting interview and some comments. We hope to have Dr. Welsing back on a future Black Journal program discussing her very phenomenal genetic theory called the crest theory.